Hi students, let's work on Flogorithm 5.1 today. This is interesting program. So the instructions given are write a Flogorithm program that performs the following tasks. So here we have to find out the largest, smallest and numbers and the sum of the numbers entered by the user. So utilizing nested loops, outside loop keeps the program running until told to stop, and inside loop asks for input of a number, positive or negative, and the input number count should be unlimited, and if the input entered is a 0, then it should terminate the inside loop. When the inside loop is terminated, we have to display the largest and the smallest number of all the numbers entered inside the loop, as well as the total. No values carry over from one set of numbers to the next. So at the end of the loop, then we will ask if uh, if a new set of numbers is to be inputted or not. So these are the instructions given. Let's move on to the code. We are actually showing this Python code to help students visualize the logic of the assignment in Flogorithm software. Students are actually encouraged to write the code for the assignment. However, it is not required. Writing the code is optional. You can also download the code from the given link. Let me show you the link. This is the link by which you can actually download the code and can work on your logarithm. Let's work on the program. So here we are defining a function method and named it as nested while loop, and now we are using a variable, we call it as a flag, to control the outer loop here. So this is the outer loop in the sense while loop. We are using do while loop. So basically we are giving the flag value as true so that the program continues its execution in the while loop. So here while do you want to run, as this is true, then we enter into the loop, and then we are using a list here, as the name itself says list. So this is a array list, numbers underscore entered is array list, and we are declaring with like this two braces, square brackets. This represents a list and it stores the numbers entered. So automatically while entering the numbers, so based on the values, the interpreter automatically it assumes the data type of this numbers entered. So basically we use integers, and then after entering the numbers, which gets stored in the list of numbers entered, we are using an inner loop to keep asking the user for numbers. To fill this numbers entered list, we keep on ask the user to enter more numbers. And as per the instruction, it says the numbers count should be unlimited. So here, while we give as true in order to enter the loop, so if at all the condition is true, then it enters the inner loop here. Now we are using one more variable user number, and we are asking the user to input the number. Please enter a number and type 0 if you want to stop. So as per the instruction, it clearly says whenever the user enters a 0, then the inner loop must be stopped. So we are prompting the user at the very beginning, please enter a number or else type 0 if you want to stop the inner loop. So that's what we are printing here. You entered this number, the number whatever user has entered, we're printing it here, and we are checking. So you can see the while loop after the user entered the numbers. So we are using a if condition here. If the user number is 0, if the user number that the user has entered is a 0, then we are letting know the interpreter. So we are displaying as you entered 0, this stops the inner loop. This is the break keyword in the line number 16. So we use this break keyword to interrupt the flow of execution, and it comes out of the current loop. So it is in this 10, line number 10 while loop. So if this condition satisfies, if user has entered 0, then we display as you entered 0, this stops the inner loop, and then as we are using break, the flow of execution stops here and it comes out of this while loop, and then the program flow will continue there onwards. And this line number 19 and 20 will not get executed if this user has entered as 0, because this break will get executed and it comes out of this while loop, and the flow of execution starts from line number 22. So if at all he does not enter, user did not enter any 0, or I mean 0 value, so it will, the flow of execution continues, because this does not get executed, line number 15 and 16. And now if suppose let's say user entered a value of 5, so it checks in the line number 14 if user number is equals to 0. No, it is not, because he entered 5. So this 15 and 16 will not get executed, and then it comes out of this as this condition failed. And the line number 19, we are storing that entered number in a variable called new number. And thereafter, so a array list has many methods which supports, we can perform, using those methods we can perform operations on that particular list. So here we are using append method, and so this is the list name numbers underscore entered, and we use a dot because we call that method inbuilt method append, and we pass the number entered by the user, so that that number will get appended to this list numbers entered. Append in the sense just it gets added to that number. Add in, I mean just it will be stored in the list afterwards. So here we check if the list is not empty. In the line number 22 you can see clearly, if numbers underscore entered, it means if this list is not empty, if at all there are some values inside it, so we should, this block should get executed. So line number 24, as the user will enter the user numbers, so it will go inside the if conditions, and it will display the array list is as follows, and we use flower braces here to display the values inside that list. And afterwards we are displaying, we are using finding the first and last element here in the list. And as you know, this is an array list, so we use the index values to fetch the uh, original value inside that list. So the first number is numbers entered of 0. So 0 is the first values index. The array starts with 0, 1, 2, 3 index values. So we are giving as 0. And the last number, so in Python, at the end of the list, the last number is stored at the index -1. So that is the reason we are using numbers underscore entered of -1. So the last number will be fetched and stored it in the last number here. And then we are printing first number is whatever the user entered, and the last number the user has entered. And now we are sorting the list here, The reason behind sorting the list is, so once we sort the list, and the very first value is the smallest number inside that sorted list, and the very last value is the largest number inside that sorted list. And defaultly, this sort method sorts the numbers in ascending value, in ascending manner. So here we are printing sorted array list is, so we print the sorted array list here, and then as per the instruction, it is also asked us to calculate the sum of the numbers entered. So we are also using one method, sum. So this method, what this method does is, so it takes the input of a list and it just calculates, adds all the values and returns total sum. So we are calling this method sum and passing the input as numbers entered list. So that will add all the numbers inside this numbers entered list and store that value in the sum of the numbers. So as you know, we are getting the values, the very first number as the smallest number after the sorted list, and the very last number as the largest number. Here we are printing the final output, the smallest number, largest number, as well as the total sum is nothing but the sum of the numbers variable. And finally, we are asking the user if he wants to continue or not. So this is the variable we are taking. Do you want to run the string? So the input we are giving is, do you want to continue running this program? Yes or no. So here, if the value he entered is a yes, then we will we ask him to enter the another set of numbers. No, if he doesn't want to continue running this program, if he entered a no, then this condition satisfies. So and if it go he the program execution goes into 48 number, and we are setting the do you want to run as false, and we are printing this stops the outer loop. So this, why we are setting it to false means, in the very beginning you can see in the program, so here we are defaultly we are setting this value as true in order to start executing this while outer loop. So once user says he doesn't want to execute continue the program, so he enters in no, then we should set it to false, such that this outer loop fails, outer loop condition fails, it comes out of the loop. That's it. Let's move on to the logarithm. Before moving to this logarithm, let me execute this Python program here. So once I run this program, so let's take the input from the instructions given, the example input. Here the user has entered 1, 3, minus 12, 5, 50, and finally 0. So let's keep that in mind. Let's enter the first number as 1, the second number, and it displayed you entered 1, and it keeps on prompting this string, please enter a number type 0 if you want to stop, until and unless we input a 0 number. So next, as per the input, we are giving a 3, you entered 3, and again we are entering minus 12, and then we are entering 5, finally we are entering a 50. So now we have to enter a 0 in order to get the output. Click enter. You can see once we enter a 0, it displays you entered 0. As you entered 0, this stops the inner loop. The array list is as follows. The list gets printed in the same way how the user entered the input. So if the user has entered 1, then 3, then minus 12, then 5 and 50. So in the same order, this has printed. And here the user first entered the number as 1, and the last number user has entered is 50. Now we will sort the array list here. So the sorted array list is the minus 12, 1, 3, 5, 50. Defaultly this sort method will give the ascending values. So and finally the output here is So using the sorted array list, we can fetch the smallest and the largest value here. Smallest first number is minus 12, which is the zero index, and the largest last number is 50, which is at the minus 1 index. And the total sum, if you calculate, minus 12 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 50, it total sums up to 47. This is the total value given. So now if I enter no, then the program stops. Or if I enter S, it again asks me, let me enter S here. So again it asks me to enter another set of numbers. See, let's suppose let's give 20, 30, 10, 40, 60, and 50. Now let me enter a 0 here. So you can see the array list is as follows: 20, 30, 10, 40, 60, 50. This is the way I have entered the numbers, and the first number is 20 and the last number I have entered is 50. And the sorted array list is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And the first smallest number is 10, the largest last number is 60. The total sum is 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40 plus 50 plus 60 is 220, 210. So now it is asking me, do you want to continue running this program? I'll give as a no. Then this stops the outer loop and the program will exit. This is the Python code. Let's work on the logarithm. On the left hand side you can see the Python code. Right hand side you can see the logarithm. As I have already created the logarithm, I am just going to go through it, explain you step by step. So here the first step is, like, we are using a flag to control the outer loop. So I am using a variable do you want to run and declaring it as true with the value true, such that the while loop executes automatically. So now in the line number 3 you can see I have assigned a value true here. So in the logarithm I am declaring a variable called loop control and giving the data type as integer. You can also give boolean. For timing I am using integer. So and I am assigning a value. So for assignment you should use the box, rectangle box. So I have to give the variable name on the left hand side and the expression value on the right hand side. As true is nothing but 1, so I'm just assigning 1 to the loop control variable. Just click OK. And then coming to the line number 5, so here we are checking the condition, while do you want to run. So list to hold the entered numbers entered is array list. In order to store the input or the list of numbers provided by the user, we are using array list numbers entered. And here in the logarithm you can see I am declaring few variables. I am going to use these variables in the upcoming loops in the logarithm chart. So this is the answer variable and I'm declaring it as a string. And I am also declaring variables called current. This is the current value that user has entered, so it should be an integer value data type. So I am giving it as data type integer and writing the name as current. And similar way I am using two strings here, head 1 and head 2, and both contains the value. Like, we have to show the output as the smallest value the user has entered and the largest value the user has entered. So I'm just storing in the head 1 the smallest value entered is this kind of we can append this head 1 to at the end, so that this will be appended to the value that, I mean, the user entered. And head 2, it is the largest value that user has entered is. So we will append these two, head 1 and head 2, to the original values that user has entered, and we display it. For this assignment we are again using rectangle boxes, assign boxes. And here I am storing the largest value in the variable big and the smallest value in the variable small, and I am declaring them as integers. And they also asked us to find the total sum of the integers entered. So I am declaring a variable called total sum, and the total sum at the beginning it should be 0, so I am assigning it as 0. Not in order not to store any garbage value in this total sum variable, I am just declaring the I mean assigning the value as 0 here. You can see now the coming to the line number 5. So the outer loop starts executing here while do you want to run. So this do you want to run, we already assigned a value true. So here this condition satisfies and it enters into the outer loop. Now here you can see the loop control variable we are using in the beginning, and we are assigning it as 1, so which is true. So here you can see loop control is not equal to 0. Yes, this condition satisfies, and it go to the right side of this flow because this value, this condition satisfies, which is true. And now we are asking the user to enter a number here. You can see, and we are putting that number into the current value variable. Then here we are assigning this current value to big and as well as small, because in the line number 10 if you see the inner loop starts here. So this loop where defaultly we are giving it as true. So here what happens means, if the user directly enters a 0 is for the second time, so only one number will be entered by the user, and the both loops stops and it comes out of the loops as per the instructions given. Whenever user enters a 0, so it will come out of the loop. So in order to like print the output, if at all he user has entered only one number and then he has entered a 0, so that one number should be the largest as well as the smallest. So that's why we are assigning current value to the big and small here. And now we are entering into the second loop, inner loop. So while this is true, so here we are seeing the current value is entered is a number, not 0. If it is not a 0, then the second loop continues, and we have to display please enter a number, and please continue the assignment in the same way by following the remaining code and upload the screenshots. Take the multiple screenshots to cover entire FPRG logarithm file, display the output, and write your student name, student ID, and date. Thank you.